All right, so the number one most important thing you need to get out of today is, and it's really a review, we've done it many times before, you need to understand what an answer is, or what a line is, they're related. And you need to understand for an absolute value problem, how do you find the vertex of that absolute value problem? And why is that vertex important? So those are the two things. So if you want to jot those down, that's your goal. How, or understand what a line really is, what an answer really is, like what a solution means, an ordered pair that's a solution. And then what is a vertex? How do I find it and why is it important? All right, so an ordered pair that would be on the line is a solution. So again, a line, since nobody's in, oh, by the way, earbuds out. Earbuds out, you got earbuds in. I got checkers. Let's see. All right, you don't know what dang versions. See, take your hoodies off. Carson, take your hoodie off. Yeah, like see the other one? Yeah, yeah. Like I haven't seen that trick before. Just show me the ear that doesn't have one in it. On it. Let me see you real quick. Ears, Angela. Ears. Another ear. Oh, okay. I really thought you were hiding one. Let me see. We don't want to mix it out. Probably keep getting your phone. That's what I'm going to do until you guys earn this privilege back. We won't touch a phone, even if you have free time at the end. You can sit and interact socially, put your head down, sleep. Oh, real quick. You guys have got to start getting this. I mean, this class is struggling when it comes to grades.
I don't know if it's right though. Equation is a rule of a value of the left side equals the value on.
All right, so that's what an equation is. So again, all of this stuff's in your notes. I mean, it's not like you even have to remember it. You just take some time and look it up when I ask you questions. So an equation says the left side has to equal the right side. So here's what a line is, or what an answer is. It's all the answers that make the left side equal the right side. Thank you. It's that simple. So all of the answers, if we pick every single possible answer, every X and Y that would make this left side equal the right side, that would form a line. We put all those points on the graph and it would actually form a V in this case because it's absolute value. But when you see that V shape on the graph, or when you see a straight line, it's a different kind of equation, even a curved line, that's all the possible answers to the equation. You got to get that one down for next year. Oops. Order. I think I might, yeah. Boy, where they are though, because I never used them.
Somebody took a box out of my room.
I did not take it, but that's for sure. I've never used them, so they're probably like they probably moved.
I walked down and asked stuff.
Yeah, I have seen some. I don't know where they are.
Oh,
Pretty sure I see it.
maybe I saw it in something.
So a line is all of the possible solutions. A table is also a possible solution. So when you created the table, that's also a possible solution. It's not all of them because you only normally do 2 or 3 or at the most 5 or 6, but those are solutions. That's why we're creating the table, is to use those solutions to try to figure out what the line would look like without having to try to put every possible point on there. So again, if we wanted to find an ordered pair that would be on the line, we're just finding a solution. We're finding an answer. An answer is either one value if it's only one variable, or if it's 2 variables, it's a value for X and Y that would make the left side equal the right side. Now you could plug in random numbers until you find 2 numbers that happen to make the left side equal the right side. That would take you forever, because you'd just be guessing. So here's the strategy. It's the same thing we've been doing. It's just, this is all repeat. I want to choose a value for X. Exactly what we do when we created it. This is why we created it. I want to choose a value for X that really will make my math easier? That's the main thing I'm thinking about. Like, what's the easiest value to pick to make my math easy? What value have we been choosing for absolute value? Well, it changes based on what's inside the brackets. Remember where I said choose based on what's in the brackets? What's that? So in this case, we would choose, oh, he's back already? In this case, we would choose 4, right? Why did you say 4? You're right. Well, it's the opposite of the number in the line, right? So if we have a -4 in the brackets, our first value is +4. We want what's inside the brackets to be 0 once we do the math. So the way that we would get 0 is if we chose +4 for x. If there's no number in the brackets, we just choose 0, because then that would give us 0 in the brackets. So I would do my table. The first value I would choose would be 4. Gentlemen, I'm trying to ignore it, but it's becoming more and more difficult. And I'll just move your seats. So did you hear me? Did you hear me? So I'm trying to ignore it, but I can't. When I'm talking, I'm talking. Thank you. And you get plenty of practice time. You don't do anything anyway, so all you do is talk. So when I'm talking, you can let me talk. So I would take 4, plug it in for x. A table. Again, I'll review something. A table is simply saying if x was 4, or whatever value I choose, in this case 4. If x was 4, what would y have to be to make the left side equal the right side? And again, the left side and right side are always determined by where the equal sign is. Doesn't matter. You don't try to divide it in half or anything. It's always where the equal sign is. So that side's the left side. For this equation, that side's the right side. The equal sign determines left and right. So I plug in 4. I then just write the rest of the equation. 4 subtract 4 is 0. So I don't really have to do anything to change that because it's not a negative number. Then I add 1, so 0 plus 1 is 1. That is a solution to that equation. That is a point that would be on the line when we graph it, technically on the V, kind of the 2 lines. What's the other that's kind of the final important thing when you're doing absolute values? What's important about that value? Why did we choose 4? Why do we want the inside of this to be 0? What does that give us?
So it's nothing.
Well, that's how we figure out what number to use, but why do we want to come up with it? Like, why do we want to make the inside 0? If there was only x in there, we would just choose 0 because that would give us 0 in the brackets. Why do we want 0 in the brackets? What's important about this point right here? This is an ordered pair, by the way, if you don't remember that. That's an ordered pair, 4, 1. What's important about that? It is easy normally, but that's not why. The more important reason, it has to do with when you're looking at the graph. What's it going to look like? That point's going to be, well, this, I think if you visually saw it, you'd be getting it correct. But let me change it. This is the pointy part. That's the point. It's called the vertex. But that point, whenever you choose the value that will give you 0 in there, and then you do the math, that will give you, it'll match up with the pointy part of the graph. Again, the math word is vertex. Always, like no exceptions to that. Sometimes that's all you need to pick the graph if you're just matching graphs. And I'm going to show you your quiz that you're going to take next year. And that's all you do on one of the pages, you just match graphs. So any questions? All of that was really a review, but since I've been missing a lot of people, I'm going to go kind of back over no, we went through quickly. But at least it's recorded. If you didn't get all that, you can go back and watch that. All right. So last thing, and then you'll practice for a few minutes, and then it's a short day, so that'll be it. This is your quiz you're going to take next year. We'll zoom way out for now, and then we'll. This works. Sure do. Got it. Oh, am I already on it? Let's see, this may or may not fit the whole thing on the screen. Shoot, it doesn't. And I didn't print it out because although there's a good chance this is gonna wind up being your quiz, so probably a good idea to, like, for me, not just next year. Since I've already got it, I might as well use it. I'm gonna have to zoom way, way out for now, and then we'll look at each one individually. All right, so they give you this page. Oh, there we see both pages. They give you 3 equations. They give you 3 graphs. I don't even think they tell you to show your work or anything out there sometimes. You just have to match up the correct equation with the correct graph. You don't need to do any math to do it. That's how easy that quiz will be. If you truly understand how to find the vertex, because if you'll notice, the vertex for every graph is in a different value of x. Here, let's use here, the vertex lines up with where x is 0. The way I know x is 0 is because this is the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. That's the x-axis. Wherever they meet is 0, 0. So this vertex lines up with where x is 0. This vertex lines up with where x is -2. This one lines up with where x is +2. All you have to do is know which x value to choose. You choose, if you understand how to choose the correct x value, that will tell you automatically which graph to choose without ever doing anything. Now, sometimes you may have to do the math all the way out and figure out the exact point that the vertex is on. But in these, and I think there are multiple versions of this. I think they have 6 versions. Every single version, this works. At least when I look at all of this. So now one by one, we're going to do each graph. Well, we're not going to, I'm sorry, not each graph, each equation. Can you guys see those 3 equations now? You can, I think, see what's in brackets, right? So for this one, what value, and don't say it out loud. I want you to think about it. If you want to write it down, up to you. For this first graph, where it says, actually, I'll write the equation larger. So y equals -x subtract 2, subtract 2. Think about what we said. I'll just tell you what we said. If x is the only thing in the brackets, we choose 0. If it's not the only thing, we pick the opposite of the number that's in the brackets. We should have written that down the other day. If not, I'll put it up when we start practice. So think about that. If x is the only thing in there, you choose 0. If there's a number in there, if x is not the only thing and there's a number in there, choose the opposite. I appreciate you answering since you weren't paying attention early. So let people think about it just for a second. We should already know the answer. You don't even have to solve for y. If you want to, you can, but in this particular problem, you don't even need to, because it's just matching in all the graphs. You can match based on just the x value. Right.
Let's go for the top one.
Well, just tell me what value. What value would we start with? What would we pick for our x?
2.
+2, right? X is not the only thing in there. So the number that we have in there is -2. Make sure you include that. What you may say is a subtraction sign. We think of that as -2 though. So we choose the opposite number. So we are choosing for that first equation. I'm gonna have to erase all these lines because when I scroll, in this program, the writing doesn't move. It doesn't go with the paper. So I'm gonna have to get rid of it. So just remember, we chose for the first graph, a value of x is +2. So for one of the graphs, the pointy part should be where x is +2. So here's how you figure that out. You find x is +2 on the graph, and you go straight up and straight down. Like I just look straight up and straight down. If I hit the pointy part, then it matches up. Well, did I hit the pointy part? Jocelyn, did I hit the pointy part? I didn't, right? So that can't be the right graph. All right, so now let's look at the next graph. And I should just be able to scroll the graph, I think. That should stay right on. So this graph, ooh, pretty close. So can I do this? Yeah, there we go. So that is now on +2. Did I hit the pointy part of that graph? Call off that. David, did I hit the pointy part? I found +2 on the graph because that's what we chose for X, is +2. I kind of made a dashed line above and below it. Did I hit the pointy part of that graph? So that's not the right graph. Doesn't match up with the vertex. So last but certainly not least, I find the pointy part. I'm sorry, I find +2. I make my little dashed line. Angela, did I hit the pointy part of that graph? I did. That's the graph. I didn't do any math at all, other than picking the correct starting. Now, sometimes you may have two graphs where you hit the pointy part. Then you got to finish doing the problem. You got to figure out what y was. You might even have to choose a second number, like the page that you have in front of you. You had to choose for some of them, you had to actually take a second x value, see what you got for y, and see if both of those points were on the line. But this is your quiz next year. And I think in all of them, if you just know how to find the vertex, you don't actually have to do any math. You just choose the correct x value. That will tell you which graph matches up. You won't remember this next year, but hopefully when they start talking about vertex and absolute value, what I want you to remember is how important the vertex is, so that you really focus on trying to recall, to remember how to find the vertex, because that'll get you through probably half the problems in this lesson. Here's what you're doing. That sheet that you have in front of you that we handed out last class, or some of you just got it today, I want you to do exactly what we just did for 4, 5, and 6. You don't have to do any math for 4, 5, and 6. You can figure out which graph matches up just based on exactly what we did. For 1, oh yeah, you can do it. For 1, 2, and 3, you're gonna have to create a table and do at least one value where you solve out for the y. So you'll pick the correct x value to start with, plug it in, solve out, figure out what y is. One of those 3 you can match up once you figure out what the y is. For 2 of them, though, you have to then pick another x value and figure out y, and then you can match up the graphs. But I expect all of you to do 4, 5, and 6. If you did it last class, most of you weren't here, but I think some of you did it. I've got something else you can do, or you can just do tables for number 1, 2, and 3. And then if you did all of that, then you can do, there's a problem on page 186. I'll walk around. Oh, let me do attendance real quick. What time do we get out? It's 9:05, so you have 20 minutes. No reason why you can't get something done in 20 minutes, especially since it's not that difficult on 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to stop the recording, I think, there.